Check, check. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let me make sure that my other scene is working. There we go. Now I got it all done. All right. So I'm not doing a show because it's not Friday, but I'm gonna have a show for you tomorrow. We're gonna be talking about Ryan Kelly being arrested. We're gonna talk about drag queens, only a little bit because everybody's talking about drag queens. I'm gonna ask you what you look for in a county commissioner because I'm talking to a county commissioner next week. Um, what is his name? Matt. What's his name? Matt Fenske. Okay, so we're gonna talk to Ottawa County Commissioner Matt Fenske. Um, I think that's all I need. So, without further ado, we're gonna slide into Jim's show, and you guys enjoy. Whoops. Give me a second to figure out why it's not working. I thought I had everything working. My apologies. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now it should work.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Homes Politicast. I'm Jim. I'll be your host today. Hope everyone's having a great week and day, I suppose. It's beautiful here where I'm posting from. I'm all moved in to my new place. It's a little more cramped than I'm used to, but it'll do, you know. Anyway, lots to talk about in the last couple weeks. Today, there was. Um, actually, let me start with this one over here. Okay. It's from NBC News. It's an article that says Inside a Biden White House Adrift. And the subheadline reads Amid a rolling series of calamities and sinking approval ratings, the president's feeling lately is that he just can't catch a break, and that angst is rippling through his party. Wow. Yeah, that is true. I think anybody knows it. He may not, but most people know this. From Washington. Faced with a worsening political predicament, President Joe Biden is pressing aides for a more compelling message and a sharper strategy, while bristling at how they've tried to stifle the plain speaking persona that has long been one of his most potent assets. Biden is rattled by his sinking approval ratings and is looking to regain voters' confidence that he can provide the sure handed leadership he promised during the campaign. People close to the president say. Crises have piled up in ways that have at times made the Biden White House look flat footed. Record inflation, high gas prices, a rise in COVID case numbers, and now a Texas school massacre that is one more horrific reminder that he has been unable to get Congress to pass legislation to curb gun violence. Democratic leaders are at a loss about how he can revive his prospects by November, when midterm elections may cost his party control of Congress. I don't know what's required here, said Representative James Clyburn, a Democrat from South Carolina, whose endorsement in the 2020 Democratic primaries helped rescue Biden's struggling campaign. But I do know the poll numbers have been stuck where they are for a long time. Okay, I gotta stop there for a second. This makes me so angry. James Clyburn. What did he think was going to happen? He put all the he put all of his chips on the guy who couldn't even place in the top 3 in the first 3 major primaries. Biden came in not dead last, but he came in sorrowfully low in Iowa, in New Hampshire, and in Nevada. Everybody had written off his campaign until James Clyburn came in and endorsed him and got all the Democrats, the black Democrats. I mean, I'm not trying to sound racist, but South Carolina, most of the Democrats are black. He got them to endorse him, and now he's acting like he's surprised that nobody wanted Biden. Nobody. Now the Democrats didn't want Biden. The only reason they voted for him in the general is because they felt he was better than Trump. Nobody wanted this guy, and now he acts surprised. Well, I don't know why his approval ratings are so low. I don't know what he can do to turn it around. Yeah, that's what happens when you endorse a person that nobody wanted, and it annoyed me at the time because I wanted, if they were going, I was afraid that Trump was going to lose. I thought he had a good chance to win, but I was afraid he might lose because of COVID and all of the restrictions and all that kind of stuff. I was afraid. And the fact that Trump never had more than a 50% approval rating his entire presidency, it concerned me. And I wanted them to find a Democrat that was at least somewhat, I wasn't going to like any of them, but I wanted one of them that had some common sense. And so I was really upset that the Democratic people rejected Biden for the first 3 primaries, and then Clyburn comes out and decides he wants Joe Biden and to convince them, and then all the other Democrats dropped out except Bernie Sanders, so now it became a race between Biden and Sanders, and the Democrats were not going to vote for a self-avowed socialist to be their party nominee. Those ads just write themselves. If Bernie Sanders was the nominee, you just slice up all the clips of Bernie Sanders saying, "I'm a socialist," and the Republicans wouldn't even have to run a campaign. So, my point is that nobody wanted Biden until James Clyburn did this, and now all the Democrats have their hair on fire and act like they don't know what's going on. Why is Biden's approval rating so low? Because nobody likes the guy. Nobody likes him. Nobody ever liked him. I don't know how he got elected in the first place to Congress. Nobody ever liked Joe Biden. Democrats didn't like Joe Biden. Independents don't like Joe Biden. Republicans don't like Joe Biden. He's just a horrible candidate. He's a horrible politician. He's horrible. And now he's president, and we're all waking up for our long national hangover and realizing, who'd we get in bed with? This is ridiculous. I can't believe that he's our president. There's nothing he can do to turn this around. People don't like him. Now, that doesn't mean that he won't win re-election. I think it's really unlikely that he would win re-election. But if the Republicans nominate a complete idiot, it is possible that he could win by default, but I think that's unlikely. But I'm just saying, but nobody wants him. The only reason anybody would ever vote for the guy is that they were voting against somebody else, and he's just the beneficiary. We voted against this person. That means we have to vote for Joe Biden. But I don't even know if he'll be on the ballot in 4 years or 2 years. I have my doubts, not just because of his mental capacities, but just the parties are getting too old, and they need fresh blood. Both parties do. Both parties need to start looking for younger candidates. And Joe Biden will be over 80 years old. We have never had a president that old. I'm pretty sure. Now, I'm not 100% positive about Reagan. Reagan was our oldest president. but I can't remember exactly how old he was when he left office. I want to say he was like 78 or something, but I might be wrong. He may have been in his 80s, but I don't think the party. We really need some fresh blood in this country and some fresh faces. I mean, these people have all been around forever. I mean, even Trump, who hasn't been in politics that long, but my God, even when I was a little kid, I remember hearing about Donald Trump. I mean, it's just crazy. I've watched old sitcoms like The Jeffersons, and they talk about Donald Trump on The Jeffersons. They talk about Designing Women. They talk about Donald Trump. These old classic sitcoms from 30 and 40 years ago, they make reference to Donald Trump. The billionaire real estate developer. Just everybody, Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden and Donald Trump and all these people are people that belong in history books. They're just so ancient and so old. It's time for some fresh faces, fresh new people. I'm really excited about people like Ron DeSantis of Florida, Kristi Noem of South Dakota. These are on the Republican side. I'm not as thrilled about Nikki Haley, but she is interesting. She was a South Carolina governor. She was also ambassador to the United Nations under Donald Trump. These really fresh, young faces, and I say young, I mean, they're not like teenagers, but they're young as far as politics goes. They're, Ron DeSantis was a Iraq war veteran. It just seems like a lot of our politicians are from the era of Vietnam now, and I think it's time to move past that and start having some politicians who are much younger, closer to my age, closer to the age of some of the people, instead of these people, instead of us fighting the same arguments about, did they support the Iraq War? Did they vote for the Iraq War? Did they vote for the Affordable Care Act? Did they serve in Vietnam? Were they protesters in Vietnam? Were they serve? It's just time to move on from all that. So anyway, let me continue with this article. Speculation is churning that Biden could shake up the West Wing staff, although that's not about to happen right away. Multiple people close to the White House said they've heard that Chief of Staff Ron Klain will depart at some point after the midterms, and one has heard him discuss leaving. Should Klain go, a potential successor is Anita Dunn, a White House advisor and a Biden confidant, whom he often turns to when his fortunes look bleak. Dunn began working on the White House at the start of the term, then left and returned in early May at Biden's specific request. No woman or person of color has ever been the White House Chief of Staff since the position was created after World War II. Other possible replacements include Steve Ricchetti, a longtime Biden aide who is a counselor to the president, and Susan Rice, a domestic policy chief. After he lost the Virginia governor's race last year, Terry McAuliffe spoke to the White House about taking a senior role as an advisor to the president, cabinet secretary, or chief of staff. People familiar with the matter said. Let's see. And any assessment of Biden's performance needs to take into account the epic challenges he faced from the start. They came in with the most daunting set of challenges, arguably, since Franklin D. Roosevelt, only to then be hit by a perfect storm of crises, from Ukraine to inflation to the supply chain to baby formula, said Chris Whipple, the author of a book about White House Chiefs of Staff, who is now writing a book about Biden presidency. I've heard Biden say recently that he used to say about President Obama's tenure that everything landed on his desk but locusts, and now he understands how that feels. Oh, you're hilarious. Amid the rolling series of calamities, Biden's feeling lately is that he just can't catch a break. Biden is frustrated. If it's not one thing, it's another. Okay, again, what do you think is going to happen when you're president of the United States? I mean, there are always crises, even in the presidencies that we look back on, like Dwight Eisenhower's or Bill Clinton's, and say, they were president during relative peaceful time. Uh, their presidency was not peaceful at the time. It's just that the things weren't necessarily historical, like long-lasting, like World War II and the Great Depression. If you look through Eisenhower, he had constant crises, civil rights problems. They suffered from many of the same struggles right now. There was accusations and actual police brutality against black people in the South at that time because of the racism. There were sit-ins, there were protests, there were issues of segregation when the Supreme Court put down some really controversial, they're not so controversial now, but at the time, when they destroyed segregation and said that all schools had to be integrated immediately, that did not go over with a lot of people. There's a lot of similarities to stuff today. I mean, it's not the issue of segregation, but we've all experienced, when the Supreme Court ruled that gay marriage was legal, it upset a lot of people. It upset a lot of people when the Supreme Court upheld the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. And Eisenhower, who as the president of the United States has to enforce the laws, I mean, that's in the Constitution, that they have to enforce the laws of the land, regardless of whether or not he agreed with it. He had to send in federal troops into Little Rock, Arkansas, because the governor of that state would refuse to allow black children to enter the school. He said the Supreme Court made the ruling. We have to stand by it. I'm sending it. I mean, he had a lot of upheavals. You had the Cold War going on at that time too. You had the Suez Canal crisis. Where the British I don't know, had to do with the Suez Canal. I can't remember. I don't want to get into the whole history. It's a long story. But anyway, where the United States had to intervene in the Suez Canal because of problems between two nations. Very similar to what's happening in Ukraine. It really had nothing to do with the United States, but the United States had a position and was asked by Britain to intervene, just like we were asked by Ukraine to intervene in this. Why would he think that he's just going to go elect president and get to take naps for 18 hours a day and not have to do anything? I mean, I don't think anybody in the country believes that, but certainly somebody who's been in Congress for 30 years and was vice president knows that the president of the United States is busy. His schedule is filled all the time. The president does not just have hours and hours of free time where he just gets to lounge around. I mean, he has to fight for that time to go golfing and things because he's got constant, for his own sanity. Sometimes he has to get out of town and go on vacation or this, but Biden seems like this is an inconvenience for him. Like, I don't understand. If it's not one thing, it's another. Like, yeah. Did you think this was a retirement party? You were just going to get to go hang out in the White House and get paid $400,000 a year to do nothing? This was your retirement package for years of service. This is the hardest job in the country. It's in the world. It's harder than being a member of Congress. It's harder than being a governor. It's harder than being a vice president. It's arguably more difficult than being a king or a queen because a king or queen can dictate. The president of the United States can't just dictate. He's got to work with another branch of government. So it's even harder because the president just can't say, okay, I want this to happen like a king can, and your wish is my command, and you get it. The president has hard work. He's got to massage Congress. He's got to, sometimes he's got to pull in the reins and argue with them and fight for things. And sometimes he's got to soothe them, invite them over, wine and dine them, stroke their egos. What can I do for you? I can name a bridge after you. I can, name a post office after you. I can make you an ambassador. What can I do to get your vote? It's tough work. But yet Biden seems to think that this was just going to be a cush job that he could take and just kick his feet back and, have his name in the history books and, have stamps with his face on it eventually. And he gets all the benefits of, having been a president, but no responsibility. I mean, come on. That's just stupid. And it makes me mad that he seems to think that that he seems to be annoyed that there's crises when he's president. I mean, come on. Biden is annoyed that he wasn't alerted sooner about the baby formula shortage, and that he got his first briefing in the past month, even though the crisis had been long in the making. His nominee to head the Food and Drug Administration, Dr. Robert Califf, told Congress last week that the agency was sluggish and that it had made suboptimal decisions as parents hunted for formula on empty store shelves. Beyond policy, Biden is unhappy about a pattern that has developed in the West Wing. He makes a clear and succinct statement, only to have aides rush to explain that he actually meant something else. The so-called cleanup campaign, he has told advisors, undermines him and smothers the authenticity that fueled his rise. Worse, it feeds a Republican talking point that he's not fully in command. Well, that is exactly true. Okay, it continues. The issue came to a head when Biden ad-libbed during a speech in Poland that Russian President Vladimir Putin cannot remain in power. Within minutes, Biden's aides tried to walk back his comments, saying he hadn't called for Putin's removal, and the U.S. policy was unchanged. Biden was furious that his remarks were being seen as unreliable, arguing that he speaks genuinely and reminding his staff that he's the one who is president. Asked about the staff's practice of clarifying Biden's remarks, the official said, "We don't say anything that the president doesn't want us to say." Biden's angst is rippling through the party. Democratic lawmakers are sparring among themselves and blaming the White House for their dim prospects in November. Representative Stephanie Murphy, a Democrat from Florida, said the White House has failed to put forward what she called an intellectually honest plan to combat inflation, a burden that ranks first among Americans' economic concerns. A bill in the House passed to crack down on alleged gas price gouging isn't an answer, she said. If I sound frustrated, it's because I hear from my constituents. They're struggling. This is not a time for the political games. It's not the time for finding boogeyman. A spokesman for her office has said she hasn't talked about policy with a senior White House official in 6 months. Biden has vented to aides about not getting credit from Americans or news media for actions he believes have helped the country, particularly on the economy. Unemployment rates have dropped to below 4%, but polling indicates most Americans believe the economy is in bad shape. Biden grouses that Republicans aren't getting their share of the blame for legislative gridlock in Congress, while he's repeatedly faulted for not getting his agenda passed. Okay, again, sorry to stop here, but I have to say this. Biden said during the campaign that he was the only candidate, when he said during the primary campaign, that he was the only candidate who could work with Congress. He had worked with Republicans in the past. He was able to bring Republicans and Democrats together, that he would be able to break through the gridlock. He was asked over and over by the media, how are you going to work with the Republicans in Congress? Because remember, the Republicans in Congress, there's no other word about it, whether you agree or disagree with whether it was a good thing, the Republicans sabotaged Barack Obama's presidency. After they took over, they kept him from passing anything. The only thing Obama really accomplished in his 8 years was the Affordable Care Act. They stifled his every move, and he was not able to get around them. So the question became, an obvious question is, Mr. Biden, how are you going to get your legislation passed through the Republicans, who everybody knew the Republicans are going to make sure Biden accomplishes nothing? I mean, the Republicans play hardball. Whether you like them or not, the Republicans play hardball. There are many times that I'm angered by the Republicans because there are some things that I disagree with the Republicans on, and they play hardball. But you have to admit, they are tough. They don't play games. They fight to win, and they will go for the kill if they have to. So Biden was asked over and over, how are you going to get things passed with the Republicans? And he said, I can do it. I've done it. He said the fever would break after Trump left office, that the Republicans would be easy to negotiate with. They'd be easy to deal with. That it was all Donald Trump's fault. He's the one who said that. So now he's grousing that people are blaming him because he can't get anything passed. Yeah, we're blaming you because you said you were the only one who could do it. You were the one who said you could. You were the only one who could and has worked with Republicans. You said you have a history of bringing Republicans and Democrats together to get them to vote on bills. So yeah, you're going to get some blame when you said I alone can do it and you alone can't do it. Yeah, people are going to say, people are going to blame you. It's like if I hire an electrician because I have a problem and this electrician says, I guarantee you I will be able to fix the problem, and he comes in and he can't fix the problem, I'm not going to blame all the other electricians in the state. I'm going to blame you. You're the one who said you could do it, and I hired you. That's what we did. We hired, theoretically, I didn't, but the American people in general hired Biden because he said he could get things passed. He could work with the Republicans, and now he can't do it. So yeah, we're going to blame him. Gosh, don't get me started today, people. The president has also told aides he doesn't think enough Democrats go on television to defend him. Oh my God, this sounds like Donald Trump. This isn't the same argument that Donald Trump made, that he was so criticized for, that people weren't loyal to him, that the Republicans weren't giving him enough credit, they weren't going on TV and praising him and defending him. And everyone said that's such a narcissistic thing. Trump's horrible. He's so narcissistic. Everything is about him. He doesn't care about the party. He doesn't care about the country. All he wants is people to praise him. And now this is what Biden is saying. A particular sore spot is his slumping poll numbers. He's mystified his approval rating has dropped to a level approaching that of his predecessor, Donald Trump. He's now lower than Trump, and he's really twisted about it, another person close to the White House said. Well, boo-hoo. All right, anyway, this is from NBC News. I can't continue on this. This is just making me too mad. If you want to read the article, it's in NBC News. I've already half the show talking about that. This one is absolutely okay. You want to get angry again? Here we go. This is from Blaze Media, and the headline reads, "Drag Queen Pastor." I'll say that again. Drag Queen Pastor declares God is nothing in blasphemous, profanity-laced video. Okay, that's an oxymoron if I ever heard one. Drag Queen Pastor. And then says that God is nothing. Then what are they a pastor of? If they don't believe in God, then how are they a pastor? Do they know what pastor means? Okay. Here we go. Brace yourselves, people. Isaac Simmons, a United Methodist Church candidate for ordination and associate pastor at Hope UMC in Bloomington, Illinois, recently spewed blasphemy in a new slam poem ode to the LGBTQ+ community. The drag queen pastor and self-styled drag evangelist, who goes by the stage name Miss Pentecost. Oh, that's clever. Oh, very cute. Miss Pentecost declared over and over again that God is nothing, the Bible is nothing, and religion is nothing in the profanity-laced video posted on his website. Yet, while the God of historic Christianity is but a farce, according to Simmons, who repeatedly refers to the Trinity of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as female, queer spirituality and LGBTQ+ identity are, in fact, the true expressions of divinity. God is nothing, but if she were, she would be a yes, queening her way down the runways of Paris and Montreal, strutting between that tightrope pulled taut between absurdity and opulence, balancing between too much and never enough, he proclaims. Nothing, but if she were, she would be a seamstress of divine couture, weaving together string theory and self-portraits to form the fiercest gowns of queer existence. God is nothing but a drag queen with a microphone of biblical proportions. I left out curses. Out of the closet of darkness, from under the shroud of secrecy, came the beauty of humanity. Humanity made in the gender-bending, identity-breaking, system-shaking image of God, the image of Deo, or I don't know, he declares. From Adam and Steve to you and to me. Okay. There's a lot of cursing here, so I'm going to leave that out. Simmons then turns his attention to the messed up theology of toxic masculinity and the horrible ideals of the oppressive regime and Christian terrorists who wield their flappable doctrine to inflict harm on God's queerly anointed creation. The Bible, God, and religion must be nothing, he concludes, unless we willed it into something. In the caption of the video, Simmons dedicates his performance, and that's what it is, a performance, to so-called deconstructionalists, non-literalists, and queer spiritualists, and claims his message is directed to those who actively and passively cause harm against the LGBTQ, and then there's just a whole bunch of, I don't even know what this means, LGBTQIA2S+. I don't even know what those mean. Due to their understanding of Scripture. Amazingly, despite his clear denial of and hatred for the basic tenets of Christianity, the United Methodist Church has certified Simmons as a candidate for ministry. At Hope UMC, where Simmons currently serves, the proudly queer pastor has hosted, quote, drag queen Sundays, unquote, which he describes as basically just a church service that just happens to be performed in drag. Simmons has become a lightning rod amid a years-long clash over the gay issues within the United Methodist Church. Earlier this year, the Global Methodist Church, a more conservative Methodist denomination that holds to a traditional view of marriage, announced it would formally split from the denomination. Then they have his ridiculous YouTube, which I am not going to play because he might get money for playing his video. I don't know what else to say except I feel a lot of compassion for this character because he's going to be burning in the lake of fire. And he is an antichrist. He is not just doesn't believe in it. He's actively working against God. That is an even worse fate that awaits him. It's one thing to just, not that it's good, but it's one thing to just ignore God. It's one thing to just not think about him, or it's another thing to actively oppose him and work against him. And that is a sad thing. I don't envy him at all. I don't envy his life right now, and I don't envy what's going to happen to him when he dies. Hopefully God will get a hold of his heart and change him. Speaking of drag queens and drag whatever, Reason Magazine, drag shows for children under fire in Texas. And there is a picture here, actually, of a drag show. I don't know where it's being held. But there are at least 5 kids in the audience. 2 girls, and then the boys look like they're about 11 or 12 at this drag queen event. I regret to inform you that Texas is at it again. It being Reason Magazine, I guess it isn't conservative. Yeah, okay, so this is an anti Republican or conservative culture article, so I'll read it anyway, and then I'll give my opinion. I regret to inform you that Texas is at it again, it being absurd and melodramatic culture warmongering, of course. In this latest round, Texas State Representative Bryan Slaton is trying to ban minors from seeing drag queens in response to a Dallas bar's Drag the Kids to Pride event, which it billed as a family-friendly drag show. Drag shows are no place for a child. I would never take my children to a drag show, and I know Speaker Dade Fillon and my Republican colleagues wouldn't either, Slaton tweeted on Monday. So in Texas, they are saying they are attempting to pass legislation to ban minors from being able to attend. And then the event was, this is according to this culturally retarded individual. The event was swarmed with protesters despite the fact that the performers were clothed and engaged in non-sexual dancing. Some of the kids in attendance were tipping the drag performers with dollar bills, which, despite its association with strip clubs, is not itself a sexual thing. We hand dollars to street performers too, don't we? She says. Okay, that is totally different. Tipping a drag performer, and there is a picture of them doing this, putting it in a bikini, of a boy putting the dollar bill in a girl's bikini pants, or a guy dressed, I don't know, whatever. It's not the same as throwing money to a street performer, putting it in their hat or the briefcase. This is entirely different. It was very much like you would see at a strip club. So their argument is no one has to bring their kids to a Pride Week drag show, but the idea that it should be illegal is also silly and smacks more of anti-LGBTQ prejudice than anything else. Another outrage this weekend concerned the image shared by Babylon Bee's Seth Dillon. Oh yeah, here, that's the one I was talking about. Who shared by Babylon Bee's Seth Dillon, who described it as a small child, perhaps 5 or 6, stuffs money into the underwear of a nearly naked drag queen as parents look on smiling. Yeah, that it's just, the thing is, you know, I'm libertarian in some ways. I'm very libertarian, and that is a live and let live idea. If, you know, if adults want to do that, I believe it's their right. If that's what adults want to do, I think it's wrong. I think it's gross. I think it's, you know, it's the same thing with this transgender nonsense. I mean, if you want to do that to your body, you know, I don't think we should, as a society, should be forced to have to accept it. But if that's what you want to do, I mean, the government really doesn't have any right to tell you, you know, what color to make your hair or what you want to do. But when they force minors into it, that's totally different. That's why, you know, I oppose all kinds of, you know, any kind of surgeries, you know, to change a kid, puberty blockers and things like that, to change children, because they're not old enough to consent, and they shouldn't have that forced upon them. And same thing here. I mean, if you want to have drag queens, I think it's disgusting. I think it's weird. But if that's what a person wants to do, that's, you know, that's their choice. I mean, I can't force them to live a life like I'd like them to live. But when you start bringing kids into it, that's not normal, and kids shouldn't be exposed to that as if it's just a normal everyday thing. I mean, this is um, it's why we don't allow children to drink alcohol. It's why we don't allow children to buy cigarettes. It's why even in states that have legalized marijuana, they make it only for those who are adults. They don't change it for kids. You know, it's why we don't allow we wouldn't allow a parent to buy their teenage boy a prostitute. That would still be illegal, even though the parents approve of it. We would still say that doesn't matter. It's not right. Um, we have a lot of rules for kids. They can only work so many hours. We're a nation that is committed, for the most part, to protecting our children. We can go a lot farther, but we have a lot of rules. Even if parents think it's okay for their child to smoke weed, the law says they can't do that, even if the parent thinks it's okay. There are many areas where the government steps in for the role of the parents. Now, in some areas, like with schools and things, they go too far. But I'm saying there is a history of looking out for the best interest of the child, in spite of what the parents think. And this is one of them. And so there should absolutely be, I'm not saying that there should be a law that bans people dressing up in drag. I mean, I think it's horrible, but I don't know if legally the government has the authority to tell us, just like I said, I don't think they have the authority to tell us that we can only have natural colored hair, or, anything like that. I mean, or how we have to dress, as long as it's not explicit. I don't think the government can tell women they have to wear dresses all the time, or, that guys have to wear a suit and tie everywhere they go, or anything like that. I don't think the government has the authority to say that if a man wants to put on women's clothes, he can't do that. I don't think the government has that authority. But I think the government does have the authority to say minors should not be witness to that. Just like minors aren't allowed in strip clubs, and minors are, and we go down the list of all the things that kids and teenagers are not allowed to be part of. Even if their parents say, I'm fine with it, go ahead. We even have limits on movies. A kid cannot go see an R-rated movie. Even if his parents say, oh, it's fine with me. Or an X-rated movie. I mean, I was meaning more like if they go to a movie without the parents, even if the parents send a note saying I'm okay with it, they have to be accompanied by an adult to go see a movie like that, an R-rated film. Because it's not just enough for a parent to just say, I'm okay with it, go ahead and let them in. It's like, no, you have to take responsibility. You have to be in there with them. If they're going to go see an R-rated movie, you have to sit in there with them because they can't do that. So anyway, all right, this week I'm just going through the list of being annoyed. This is Matthew McConaughey was speaking from the White House podium. I guess I didn't realize that it's the policy now that any citizen can just go and speak from the White House podium. But actor Matthew McConaughey delivered an impassioned and at times emotional remarks at the White House press briefing on Tuesday, telling the stories of those who died in the elementary school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, and urging more action on gun control. That was according to CNN. Matthew McConaughey actually is from Uvalde, Texas, which is odd to me that he's from this very small town. But he is, and for some reason he's speaking from the White House press, in this White House press briefing room, to give this. I don't know when we were going to have equal time. I mean, I would assume that if I so ask, I should be allowed to speak from the White House podium, because apparently it's just whoever wants to, whoever asks, I guess. Unless you're telling me that there are two different rules for the celebrities and the elites in this country than for the lowly citizens like myself, that would be hard for me to believe, especially that the Democrats would do that, since they are for the people. and for the little guy. But I would assume that I could put in my petition to speak and give my account of what I think should happen. But anyway, he gave his. I mean, I'm sure he was. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he was being legitimate. Although with actors, you can never tell because that's their job. Is to. I'll just say it, to effectively lie. I mean, I'm an actor at times. I love acting. But the thing is, the whole point of acting is that you have to convince the people of your sincerity. I mean, if two people are in love on screen, that doesn't mean that they like each other or even, really know each other in real life. But they've got to convey to the audience that those two are in love, and they've got to pretend and convince people that they're sincere when they say, I love you. You have to believe that those two are in love. So that's an actor's job, theoretically, is to be a professional liar. That's no offense to actors. I mean, those who do it well, I love it. I love seeing a good film. I love seeing a good play where the actors are good. But when an actor comes forward and gives an impassioned or emotional plea about something, you don't know if they really mean it, or if they're just reading lines just very effectively. So I don't know. I really don't think a lot's going to happen on the gun control issue. It might, but I'd be surprised. Anyway, all right. I'll talk to you all later. Yeah, I'm running a little over, so I'll see you all next week. Have a great week, everyone. Bye. Bye.
All right, that's it for. Ooh, that's really loud. Sorry if I just blew your eardrums out. That's it for Jim Cooper. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about all of the crazy things, the FBI interfering with Michigan politics, um, the interview later on with county commissioner. What the heck does a county commissioner even do? Also, we're going to be talking about some of the things that happened at our last county commission meeting. Ottawa County Commission has some weird stuff happening at their meeting. So we're going to go over all that. I'm Anon Don. This is the Home Spliticast.